We got a scorcher against the Trump administration. It's so hot it's burning my hands. You're here on Wednesday morning on Legal AF. This has to do with Chief Judge Boasberg reopening his criminal contempt proceedings against Donald Trump and the Trump administration. He says, I want to hear from the whistleblower who got fired, Eros Ruvani, who was with the Federal Government Department of Justice for more than 15 years, serving 5 different administrations, but he wrote a 35-page letter on the way out after being fired by Pam Bondi for telling the truth to a federal judge. He said, I was ordered in March along with other Department of Justice officials. I was ordered by Emil Boy, now on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, to lie to federal judges. And when I heard that, to lie to federal judges and don't stop the planes from whisking people away from the federal jurisdiction, of judges who are providing oversight for due process. When I heard that, I said, attention, Judge Zenas in Maryland. Attention, attention, Judge Boasberg. You got a DOJ insider who says they were lying to you. And now we've finally gotten around after an appeal process to Judge Boasberg saying, I want to hear from Ezra Ravini. In fact, he told the American Civil Liberties Union that's representing the plaintiffs, tell me who else you think I should hear from as I determine whether criminal contempt, meaning somebody's going to jail, should be imposed on the Trump administration. I got that filing just came in the last 24 hours. And I got an interview I just did in the last 24 hours with Lee Gellert, who is the ACLU lawyer, the lead lawyer in this case. Wait till you hear from him. Wait till you hear what Judge Boasberg and Erez Ruvani have to say. I pull it all together here on Legal AF Wednesday. Take a moment for me. Hit the free subscribe button. Help us as we continue to grow to 1 million subscribers. You may have forgotten because there was so many Trump Department of Justice scandals ago that a judge, Chief Judge Boasberg in D.C., issued a memorandum opinion accusing the Trump administration of probable cause to have committed criminal contempt. Here's what he said. On April 16th, 2025, on the evening of Saturday, March 15th, 2025, this court, meaning Judge Boasberg, issued a written temporary restraining order barring the government from transferring certain individuals into foreign custody pursuant to the Alien Enemies Act. At the time the order was issued, those individuals were on planes being flown overseas, having been spirited out of the United States by the government before they could vindicate their due process rights by contesting their removability. Rather than comply with the court's order, the government continued the hurried removal operation. Early on Sunday morning, hours after the order issued, it transferred 2 plane loads of passengers protected by my temporary restraining order into a Salvadoran mega-prison. The court ultimately determines that the government's actions on that day demonstrate a willful disregard for its order, sufficient for the court to conclude that probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt. The court does not reach this conclusion lightly or hastily. Indeed, it has given defendants ample opportunity to rectify or explain their actions. None of their responses are satisfactory. One might nonetheless ask about this inquiry into compliance. Is it able to proceed at all given that the Supreme Court vacated the temporary restraining order in question? But that the fact that it was later vacated doesn't mean that you get to violate a court's order that's still on the books until then. The Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders, especially by officials of a coordinate branch who have sworn an oath to uphold it. To permit such officials to freely annul the judgments of the courts of the United States would not just destroy the rights acquired under those judgments, but make a solemn mockery of the Constitution itself. United States versus Peters. Chief Justice Marshall, 1809. So fatal a result must be deprecated by all. That's how we started. Now, that went into a long morass of appeals. Finally, in the last 72 hours, appellate courts in D.C. said, Judge Boasberg, pick up where you left off if you want. Go do your fact-finding. And the judge says, fine. Pulled everybody together, said to the American Civil Liberties Union, you make your suggestions as to who I want to hear from. I know I want to hear from Erez Ruvani. He said it out loud in court. That's the whistleblower. And I then brought on Lee Gellert for the ACLU to brief our audience in the last 24 hours. But since then, we got this new filing. Now, here's who they want. Here's who the plaintiffs led by the ACLU want the court to interrogate or examine for evidence. Number 1. Former Acting Deputy Director of the Office of Immigrant Litigation, R.S. Ruveni. In fact, as I go down the list, let me show you some clips of some of these people. So here is a clip from the 60 Minutes interview recently, the last month of R.S. Ruveni, after he submitted to Congress the 35-page whistleblower letter effectively against Emil Boy, who already got confirmed to be on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. Here's Ruveni. The Alien Enemies Act allows rapid expulsion from the U.S. of the citizens of enemy nations during a war. But without a declared war, Trump used it against more than 100 Venezuelans that the government said were terrorists. They were to be denied their right to be heard by a judge. Ruveni says Boy expected a challenge. Boy emphasized those planes need to take off, no matter what. And then after a pause, he also told all in attendance, and if some court should issue an order preventing that, we may have to consider telling that court you. And when you heard that, you thought, what? Felt like a bomb had gone off. Here is the number 3 official using expletives to tell career attorneys that we may just have to consider disregarding federal court orders. Now, Deputy Assistant Attorney General Drew Ensign, I've been saying for a long time that Drew Ensign has a lot of explaining to do in front of judges like Judge Zenas and Judge Boasberg, because if Ruveni is right and there's no reason to believe he's wrong, he lost his job over it then. True. And Sign lied to Judge Boasberg. Now, it's interesting because Legal Alert, the ACLU told me he hasn't seen Drew Ensign at all since those early days back in March and April. They've been trying to hide him, although he has appeared in other cases around the country. In fact, let me show you a clip of my interview with Legal Alert, which is up now on Legal AF as well. This is all new, folks. This is last 24-hour stuff. Let's hit it. Tell us about how Judge Boasberg actually said those 2 words, Eris Reveni. You know, it was like Kaiser Soze moment in your hearing. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is extraordinary, surreal. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. You've been doing it a long time. I mean, this is sort of mind-boggling what's going on. But he came in the hearing on the 19th, just, recently after the Court of Appeals said, you can go ahead, Judge Boasberg. And one of the first things he said is, there's been this whistleblower complaint by Mr. Rooney. We're going to have clear his throat to have him as a witness. And, I think that's right. And his complaint named other officials very specifically. So I think Judge Boasberg is saying, look, let's find out what's going on. They told me that they, thought my order didn't apply. Let's really find out what's going on. And was there this meeting where they're going to say F you to the courts? But he absolutely has mentioned Mr. Ruveni specifically, and I think his intention right now is to put him on the stand. And I would assume the other half of that equation is somebody like Drew Ensign, who's in the letter, the whistleblower letter. Yeah. And so, and he was the original lawyer on that emergency Saturday night hearing. Yeah, when the order was issued. So I suspect he will be on Judge Boasberg's mind, and a number of other people. But I think also Judge Boasberg wants to know who else was involved, because at this point, the whistleblower complaint, I don't think names everyone or names titles. And maybe the whistleblower, Mr. Rainey, doesn't actually know who all the people involved were who made the ultimate decision. So I think there's a lot of fact findings going on, and, and as you know, this issue transcends any particular substantive issue. I mean, if we can't count on the United States Department of Justice adhering to court orders, that's a whole other world we're in. Now, let me read to you it's 35 pages, but let me just read to you from pages, Let me just read to you from pages 7 to 9 of the erase letter. And it all starts with a March 14th, 2025, faithful meeting. He says on page 7, on March 14th, 2025, Mr. Ruveni received notice of his promotion to acting deputy director of the Office of Immigration Litigation. That same day, the poor guy gets promoted. Ruveni was summoned to a meeting by Deputy Assistant Attorney General Drew Ensign. At the meeting was Principal Assistant Deputy Attorney General Emil Boye and others, including Counselor to the Deputy Attorney General James McHenry, Associate Deputy Attorney General Paul Perkins, and Zane and August Fly, who was Ruvani's direct supervisor. At the meeting, Boei indicated to those in attendance that the Alien Enemies Act proclamation of Trump would soon be signed, and that one or more planes containing individuals subject to the Alien Enemies Act would be taking off over the weekend. Boei did not provide further details. He indicated and stressed to all in attendance that the plane needed to take off no matter what. Now remember, we already had just that same day, March 15th, 16th, Judge Boasberg grounded the planes. He ordered them grounded, not to take off, and if they're taken off to be reversed and come back, which were all ignored. That's the criminal contempt. He says this is what Ruvini has to say about that and about Boei. Boei would then remark, mind you, this is now a Third Circuit Federal Court of Appeals judge. He was Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer. He was Donald Trump's number 3 in the Department of Justice. And now he's a lifetime appointed federal judge sitting in Philadelphia. This is what Ruvini says. Boei stated that the DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, "Fuck you," and ignore any such court order. That's a quote. Mr. Ruvini perceived the others in the room looked stunned, and he observed awkward, nervous glances among the people in the room. Silence overtook the room. Mr. Ruvini and others were quickly ushered out of the room. Notwithstanding Boei's direction, Mr. Ruvini left the meeting, understanding that DOJ would tell DHS to follow all court orders. Mr. Ruvini was stunned by Mr. Boei's statement. He then went on page 9 to go after Assistant Attorney General Ensign. He says he willfully misled the court. He said shortly after Judge Boasberg entered the initial TTRO, Ruvini informed the district court via an email that the order had been disseminated to the relevant executive branch agencies. At the hearing later that day, and signs represented the court, represented the government in court, while Ruvini listened on a public line. At the hearing, Boasberg said the plaintiffs expected planes to be departing within the last couple hours and asked Ensign if any of the named plaintiffs are in fact on the planes. Ensign assured the court that none would be removed during the pendency of the TTRO. Boasberg asked if that meant that plaintiffs are either not on the planes or that they will not be removed from the planes and will be brought back once the planes land in El Salvador. NSIN asserted, "I don't know the status of the planes. If they are removal flights, the 5 would not be on them." Ensign answered, "I don't know the answer to the question about whether there were any more imminent flights coming up in the next 24 or 48 hours. Ruvini reasonably believes that Ensign's statement to the court that he did not know whether the removals will take place in the next 24 or 48 hours were false. So now you understand when you have the list R.S. Ruvini to be cross-examined, if you will, by Judge Boasberg, Drew Ensign, August Flighty at Deputy Attorney General, James McHenry listed in the whistleblower letter, August Flinchy, Paul Perkins mentioned in the letter. Now, and then finally, Ale Boy, let's bring him back. You may recall he was asked questions during his confirmation process in front of the Senate about whether he ever told anybody to go tell judges to go off or tell them to go themselves and not comply with federal court orders. He had a very strange answer. Let's play it. In the complaint, it says Bouvet stated that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, "Fuck you," and ignoring any such court order. Did you say anything of that kind in the meeting? Senator, I have no recollection of saying anything of that kind to the extent I don't you recall, Mr. Bett. If you said or suggested during a meeting with Justice Department lawyers that maybe they should consider telling the court, "Fuck you." It seems to me that would be something you'd remember unless that's the kind of thing you say frequently. Well, I've certainly said things encouraging litigators at the department to fight hard for valid positions that we have to take in defense. And have you frequently suggested that they say, "E must you," and ignore court orders? Is that also something you frequently do, such you might not remember doing it in this occasion? No, and as I explained, I have never directed. Did you or did you not make those comments during that meeting? Which comment, Senator? You really need me to repeat it. Did you suggest, as Mr. Ruvini wrote, that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, "Fuck you," and ignore any such court order? I did not suggest that there would be any need to consider ignoring court orders. At the point of that meeting, there were no court orders to discuss. Well, did you suggest telling the courts, fuck you, in any manner? I don't recall. You just don't remember that? I mean, how many times has he told federal judges to F off? He can't remember. I mean, I'll put you down. I'll put you down for a yes. You said it, Mr. Boy. So what do we have? The government's going to object. They're going to say they're not going to put any more witnesses on. They're going to oppose all of these witnesses that the ACLU wants to put on. Boasberg's going to have to go through the exercise until he is stopped by another appellate court or the Supreme Court. He's going to have to do his exercise. He is doing his job trying to get to the bottom of whether criminal contempt and the violation of a federal court order happened or not. It's up to him. Keep chopping wood. Keep doing his job unless and until he's told stop, right? It's like a children's game, until he's told freeze by a federal appellate court above him. He's to do his job, and that's exactly what he's doing under great stress. I mean, the MAGA world and Pam Bondi literally called him a terrorist, loving or enabling judge. I mean, how dare she? I mean, the how low the Department of Justice has sunk almost out of sight under the corrupt management and leadership, if that's even a word to be applied here, of Pam Bondi and Donald Trump. We'll follow it. Lots of things happening here. Fast-moving story. Stay with us here on Legal AF. 10, 11, 12 videos a day over the Thanksgiving weekend. We're here for you. And if we're here, we're also on Legal AF Substack, where we do live reporting to update you on stuff right off the presses. So consider becoming a member of Legal AF Substack and help us get through 1 to 1 million subscribers on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popok. And I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now building what we started together on Legal AF. I've launched a new law firm, the Pope Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popo Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm, organically building on my Legal AF work, just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys, who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big autos. Attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So, if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment, harassment, or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Pope Firm today at 1-877-POP-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popo Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the